Well, hello everyone. Let me check the audio. Yeah, I think it's okay. Welcome to the Self-Knowledge Lectures. As every Sunday, we have our FaceB lectures. And today, we will see this topic that is like the continuation of the two previous topics. In this FaceB lectures of these 3 weeks, we have been talking about the 3 mountains of initiations, or the 3 works that we must do to achieve the intimate self-realization of our being. Well, let me check here. Okay. And well, today we'll see the last work. Today we'll talk about the mountain in which the aspects of love in us will be like developed and completely merged, and in which this love will be integrated with wisdom, reaching total liberation as immortal beings, that to become absolute men, divine sparks that can move freely through the universe because they are gods of the universe. That is a self-realized being. Each spark that achieves self-realization is a god that will achieve the intimate self-realization of his being. And that is actually the path that we are proposing and that we are teaching in this course, and that we have been developing in these lectures. And well, these are the 3 mountains. We already talked about the mountain of birth in the lecture number 10. We talked last week about the mountain of death in the lecture number 11. And today we are going to deepen into the mountain of the sacrifice for humanity. And well, let's do a little recap of the first and the second. Because in the work of the first mountain, which is the mountain of the Genesis, or the birth through the waters, we saw that we all started with a 3% of free consciousness and a 97% of essence, trapped and conditioned by the ego. And we began working with the 3 factors for the revolution of the consciousness, the spiritual birth, the psychological death, and the sacrifice for humanity. And we began to use the Trinity, which is fair, useful, and true, to apply this as a filter to achieve the quaternary, which are the 4 rights that will allow us to save our energy, which is the right thinking, right feeling, right acting, and right speaking, by filtering everything that we are going to think to see if it is actually fair, useful, and it is true. And if it's not, it's because it is a defect and it must die. And we are all the time like self-observing, reflecting, filtering everything that we are thinking, feeling, going to say or do, to get to eliminate all the psychological defects manifesting, so we can start saving our energy. And with that process of saving and purification of our internal energy, of our sexual energy, will occur as a consequence the lightning of the sacred fire in our spine, which is like the starting point of the path of the first mountain. And with that process of saving our energy, with the psychological death, merging this energy with the spiritual birth, or the supersexuality, and the sacrifice for humanity, we go and we start regenerating our physical body, our vital body. Then we start creating our astral body, creating a solar astral body, a solar mental body, and a solar causal body. So we go from being simple, rational animals, what we are at this point, to become true men with a 5-fold internal constitution. We become that powerful 5-pointed star that represents the authentic man. If at that point when the decision of the path is presented before us during the creation of the solar causal body, we choose the direct path. Then the human soul that we already create, at that point we have created, which is the triangle that goes up, will unite with the divine soul, which is a triangle that goes down, giving rise to the perfect matrimony, which is represented in the six-pointed star. Remember that we talked about all that in the previous lecture. I'm just like doing a recap here. And from that union of the human and the divine, the intimate Christ will be born. And we finish this first mountain with approximately 84% of awakened consciousness. And that triad that is made up of manas, which is the human soul, buddhi, which is the divine soul, and atman, which is the intimate, which is a triad that makes up our spirit, and that is known in Kabbalah as the secondary triad. We will understand why. Will develop in the work of the second mountain. And the work on the second mountain that we studied in detail last week, which is the mountain, this is the second mountain. And we studied that last week, and we saw that this is the mountain of death, which is the purification through fire, which is called the mountain of the apocalypse. And this mountain actually begins with the Christmas, with the Christmas of the heart, which is like the birth in us of the intimate Christ, which is the fire of the fire, the flame of the flame, which is that revolutionary force that comes to do all the work of the second mountain that entails the creation of the 7 bodies of gold, and the opening of the 7 churches of wisdom. And this work is represented in the 7-pointed star. And once the creation of the causal body of gold has been reached, the Christ will begin to live internally the entire process of the way of the cross. He must be crucified and die. He must pay for the hard karma with the 8 years of job. He will eliminate the 7 causal selves, thus eliminating the totality of the ego. And after going down those 3 days to hell, which are the infradimensions of the planet Earth, to actually eliminate the 7 causal selves, he will resurrect as an immortal being without a trace of the ego and already with a 99% of consciousness. And the remaining 1% is the cosmic consciousness that will be integrated in the work of the third mountain that we will see in detail today. So, the third mountain is the mystical death of 2 laws to merge into 1 law. This is what the third mountain is about. One law is the law of love, and the other law is the law of wisdom. So in this mountain, we are coming to integrate those 2 laws to become an absolute man. And well, that is the work. And actually the work of the third mountain is the work dedicated to the sacrifice for humanity. You already eliminate all the ego. You already made the work of creation of the bodies. In this, you're going to create the bodies of light. But anyways, it will be like more focused to the sacrifice for humanity. The master who reaches these heights must take the charge of the responsibility of the world teaching, which is like the responsibility of making sure that the knowledge that takes people to self-realization is somehow maintained in the planet. And he is there like giving internally the force, strength, guidance to the people that is there trying to make this path. And he must find a disciple he must find a disciple that already take the second mountain so that he can enter the absolute and stay. Because one requirement to disappear, let's say, to go to the absolute if you wish so, and never come back if you want to, because you're free at that point. Actually, the requirement is to leave someone that is already in the path. And for some, it will be very easy to do it because they, at that point, already have like their advanced disciple because they have done a good work of sacrifice for humanity, and they already have someone who is there, like in taking the path of the second mountain. But others will have to start doing that work at that point. And that work can last up to centuries or millions of years. Because actually, there are times in which you need to wait for a long, long time to find one person who is revolutionary enough to do this work. And well, something that we need to know is that finishing the second mountain, several alternatives open up for that master. One is that he continues to the third mountain with the same physical body. Allow me just a second, let me check if this is okay. Yes, it is. Okay. That he continues with the same physical body with which he worked up to that point, with the one he made the work of the first and the second mountain. And at this, if that physical body is still young and has not been like badly mistreated by the process of the payment of the hard karma, masters like Jesus, the Christ, or Saint Germain, which is also Christ, for example, they immortalized their same body because their body was still like in good condition. But if the body of the person has been badly treated from the payment of the hard karma, or is too old at that point, for example, and is in bad condition, they have another alternative. For example, they can reincarnate in a new physical body, and they will transfer their immortal atoms to that new body. And in that case, already being a fully conscious being, that person decides where and in what family to be born. That family are going to be initiates, and they will be informed, that they are going to bring a master. And the child is born, and around at 7 years old, he is already full aware of his process, and with the powers that he already have, he can modify his body. Actually, he can turn into a adult, and he can continue his work, making his third mountain. And this was a process that, for example, Master Ravolu did that process. Another alternative is that this master has a mummy saved. I don't know if I am saying it correctly. Like the mummy is, the body that has been embalmed and is preserved in a perfect condition, usually placed in the fourth dimension. And this is an alternative for beings who have made this process of saving that mummy in other ages, like anticipating this eventuality. And this alternative, for example, was taken by Master Samuel. And at that point, what the person do is start like transferring his immortal atoms to that body, and will give life to that body while the old body dies, and he will continue already moving with that older body, which is like young and perfectly preserved. And another alternative is to make a business with the inner being of a suicidal person. And it is negotiated with the being of that person so that once the person commits suicide, this master takes that body, which has been left in good condition, and transfer its gold atoms and immortalizes that body, thus avoiding having to go through and to wait for all the process of the reincarnation, and can continue his work right away. To that suicidal is given a lot of dharma, strength, so that in his next existence he can he can, it's something that will help him to that in the next existence to be able to transcend that suicidal recurrence, for example. And this alternative was taken, for example, by Lobsang Brahma. He did that way, the work. And they already go to the third mountain. The third mountain is done without the physical couple. Actually, the physical couple or the physical marriage goes until death separates them. And what death? The death of the entire ego. And this is experienced by finishing the second mountain. So actually the work with the physical partner goes until finishing the second mountain. There they separate the other person if it's still like doing, I don't know, the first or the second mountain. Will continue, that will give that person a different partner to continue the work. And well, that is the process. And at the end of the second mountain, after the death of the causal selves, we remain converted into serpent man, into Elohim male and female. So that the master at that point is already an androgynous being. And in here we must recover his already a serpent of fire, which is a Christ. And he must recover the remaining 1% of consciousness, and in the third mountain start creating the bodies of light. And this serpent, this fire serpent, which is the Christ, must unite with the Holy Spirit, thus becoming an Elohim. An Elohim is like an androgynous being who has already in him the two poles, the positive and the negative, the feminine and the masculine. All gods are actually Elohims. They have integrated in them both forces, the female principle and the male principle. So here, this Christ fused with the Holy Spirit. Those the Christ and the Holy Spirit are two of the three aspects that formed what is love, what is God Mother. And that when the Christ fused with the Holy Spirit is the beginning of the third mountain. And the bodies of light are then created with the divine soul. So actually the human soul and the divine soul join sexually to create the bodies of light. These bodies needs to be created in these mountains so that the Father, who is only light and which is outside for the moment, can enter the person. So for that reason, these bodies of light, these 7 bodies of lights must be created in the work of the third mountain. And these are called the initiations of light. The initiations of the first mountain were the solar initiations. Of the second mountain were the initiations of gold, and these are the initiations of light. And this is already an initiate of light because the causal self has died completely. The initiate has eliminated the ego in 100%, and then becomes the Father's beloved Son, which is a son of light. And he who reaches the total crucifixion becomes a child of light and love, because he is a universal and cosmic force, conscious at all times without losing his individuality. And these are the children of light, those who become totally Christified, don't have a stain left inside or outside, not even the shadow of the ego. And that is when the person can return to the bosom of the Father, full of absolute happiness and with full freedom, because it is an authentic freedom. And he reaches immortality. He can keep his vehicles, his 7 vehicles, without being subject to loss or being subject to time. That is why Master Jesus has his physical body with all the existential bodies of being outside of time. Their bodies has nothing to do with time because they will always be young. And as he wants to turn them, actually, because he has already the power of ubiquity. And that is why the symbol of the great sepulchre and the symbol of the great cross with this crown full of precious living stones, which is the total culmination of the third mountain. That is the symbol of the grave, the symbol that is saying that the two forces die to be born as a unity. Because at this point, it is still a trinity. And as a trinity, one cannot enter the absolute because the trinity is mechanical. And after the Christ merges with the Holy Spirit, which are two of the aspects of God the Mother, the third aspect of God the Mother must merge, which is the Lucifer, which is a psychological trainer. Actually, the serpent must be like pick up to form the O. So the serpent must start swallowing his tail. I don't know if you have, if you know that symbol of the serpent swallowing the tail, that is known as the Ouroboros. Actually, that is the process of the formation, let's say, of the O of the God Mother. And it is like the union of the three forces of love, or the three aspects of the God Mother, which are the Christ, the Holy Spirit, and the Lucifer. Because here, the Christ defeats the dragon, Lucifer, in all his temptations and then merges with him. Since the Christ has already eliminated all the causal selves, now the Lucifer, which is a part of our being, which is our psychological trainer, who is all the time there sending us all the situations, the desires, the temptations, so we can beat that and we can climb that stair of the levels of consciousness. At that point, is already defeated and merged with the Christ, and that way, that those three triangles. I don't know if you can see that here. Here we have first the 8-pointed star, which is the master finding or looking for his disciple, which is made of 2 squares. I don't know if you can like check this here. And then you have the 9-pointed star, which is like 3 triangles, like are them like fusing. And these 3 triangles are actually the 3 aspects of Mother the God, the Christ, the Holy Spirit, and the Lucifer. And when they merge together, they form the O of God Mother, that serpent swallowing the tail. And at that point, it has become a perfect duality. Why? Because you have now the God the Mother, sorry, and you have God the Father. That is like, it is like a 10. You have this and this, God the Father and God the Mother, which is the denary. And you as duality cannot enter the absolute either. You must return as a unity. Then when the creation of the bodies of light is finished, the 2 laws are absorbed into one. They like one penetrate the other. Yes, like this, the sexual intercourse. Because you have the godmother and you have the godfather, and it's like a sexual intercourse actually. Because that is what existence really is, a great sexual union. And well, there it remains united to the great law, connected to the absolute directly by the great law, and that is actually the symbol of the Aztecs of the eagle swallowing the serpent. The eagle is God the Father, the wisdom, and the serpent that bites his tail is God the Mother. And you can find that symbol in that civilization. Actually, in later phase V lectures, we are going to be talking in detail of all those symbolism that exist in the world that are actually talking about this path. And well, they merge to reach unity and total liberation. Well, and can enter the sacred absolute Son, already become an absolute man and self-realized man. And well, the absolute cannot be described because it is where the creation and everything that exists depends. And it is out of law because it is the great law, in such a way that everything lives and returns to the absolute. The monads live unconscious, the absolute, and when carrying out this work that we are teaching here, they have to return the absolute with 100% of consciousness to be part of the great consciousness and enjoy absolute happiness. And in order, as I was saying, to have the right to remain in the absolute, the initiate must have left a disciple on the path, already working in order to afford to disappear. As long as he don't leave a disciple, that initiate, the disciple, is an initiate who has chosen the direct path and is making his consciousness revolution with the three factors in the work of the second mountain. That is a disciple. And as long as he don't leave that disciple, he cannot enter the absolute to stay like definitely, but has to enter and return. And well, actually that is the whole process of the third mountain. And these are the topics of the three mountains. Actually, the masters don't give us more details about this because the disciple has to discover for himself the triumphs, the payments, and everything that the hierarchies are giving him for his great sacrifices. And well, here I have like a representation of the three mountains. There you can see the quaternary. There you find the four bodies that are actually or currently fallen: the physical body, the vital body, the astral body, and the mental body. And well, creating these bodies, and the causal body is doing the work of the first mountain. And there we find, as I was saying at the beginning, the secondary triad, which is made of manas, which is the human soul, buddhi, or the Buddhic body, which is the divine soul, and the Atmic body, which is the intimate. And that is the triad that is developed, fully developed in the work of the second mountain. And then we find the primary triad of the Kabbalah, which is the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is the primary triad, and that is the one that is merged in the work of the third mountain. So here you can see the 10 parts that form your inner being, which are the 10 sephirots of the Kabbalah. So actually here we are seeing the representation of the tree of life of the Kabbalah. And well, this has been today's lecture. If there's something that you don't understand about this explanation, you can ask me. I will be gladly trying to explain to you as simple as and as in detail as possible. I know that many of these things are new to you and are maybe you probably you don't understand them at first. But if you continue studying these phase V lectures and you continue practicing this knowledge, you are going to be understanding a lot of this information, and you are going to be receiving a lot of wisdom and comprehension about this from your inner being in your own reflections, and also in the astral projection. Actually, in the astral projection, they give us a lot of information and comprehension about these topics. And well, actually, when you encourage yourself to start teaching this knowledge to others, you are also going to be understanding a lot more this information in all this process, all this path. And well, I want to invite you to the next lecture. The next lecture is a very interesting one. We are going to be talking about the 4 kinds of Hannes Musen. And in that lecture, we will talk about the need to stop having a double center of gravity and define ourselves in this path. And well, let me see if you have any question now, so I can try to solve the questions that you have. And if not, remember that you can at any time ask any question and I will be gladly helping you. Well, I don't see any questions here, so thank you very much to all of you, and as always, see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.